The year is 600 BC. Jerusalem is politically unstable, sitting squarely in the crosshairs of the rising Babylonian Empire. Under the reign of King Zedekiah, the city teeters on the brink of total collapse. Escaping this threat requires leaving the city. For Lehi and his family, this means abandoning their land, their wealth, and their established social standing. They are reduced to refugees. Far from the geopolitical tensions of Jerusalem, the focus narrows to Nephi's realities of the wilderness and the internal states of Lehi's sons, specifically Nephi and Sam. As we read in 1 Nephi chapter 2, verse 16, Nephi is exceedingly young, but possesses great desires to know of the mysteries of God. He actively seeks clarity. He cries out to the Lord, and the Lord responds, visiting him. This interaction describes conversion as more than intellectual agreement. In this context, it is a direct divine intervention that results in a softened heart. This shift in heart is what distinguishes Nephi. Because he has his own experience to rely on, he avoids the rebellion that consumes his brothers. 1 Nephi chapter 2, verse 17 tells us that Nephi immediately shares his spiritual manifestation with his brother Sam. Nephi's first impulse after this manifestation is to speak. He moves immediately from receiving a testimony to bearing it. Sam hears these words, and his immediate reaction is belief. This swift acceptance stands in sharp contrast to the resistance of their older brothers. It highlights a recurring theme in the record: variable spiritual receptivity. These brothers live in the exact same biological and cultural environment. Yet when faced with an identical spiritual crisis, their reactions diverge based on their individual choices. The record shows the Holy Spirit operating through two channels here: the primary, personal revelation experienced by Nephi, and the secondary, testimony received by Sam. In this narrative, the internal state of the individual's heart determines their trajectory, regardless of the external collapse happening around them. Verse 18 outlines Laman and Lemuel's refusal to hearken to Nephi, prompting his grief and subsequent prayer on their behalf. This flowchart visualizes ancient primogeniture. The eldest son possessed absolute inheritance rights. Leaving Jerusalem forced Laman and Lemuel to abandon their guaranteed elite status. Their legally promised wealth vanishes in the wilderness. Now they face subordination to a younger brother, violating their strictest cultural norms. Nephi recognizes his limited position. Seeing that logic isn't changing their minds, he shifts his strategy entirely to prayer, seeking divine intervention for his brothers. Laman and Lemuel's rebellion is a defense of their cultural tradition, their pride, and the elite status they were born to inherit. In verse 19, the Lord blesses Nephi specifically for his diligent seeking and lowliness of heart. The text notes two conditions for this communication: that Nephi sought the Lord diligently, and that he did so with humility. Verses 20 and 21 outline a dual covenant: prospering in a chosen land through obedience, or being cut off from the Lord's presence through rebellion. Prospering in this context equates to spiritual protection and divine direction. This mirrors the ancient Israelite covenant patterns recorded in the book of Deuteronomy. Verse 22 contains a disruptive promise: Nephi will be made a ruler and a teacher over his older brethren. This divine decree decouples spiritual authority from birth order. It effectively bypasses the established cultural hierarchy. Because this covenant structure prioritizes righteousness over inherited social rank, it sets the stage for ongoing friction within the family. Verses 23 and 24 describe a curse upon the rebellious seed, detailing their future role as a scourge to stir up remembrance. Theologically, this curse is a literal separation from God and a subsequent loss of spiritual power, an outcome of their own rebellion. This separation serves a strategic function. God utilizes opposition as an active tool. In this structure, active rebellion acts as a corrective mechanism. When future generations become complacent, their adversaries push them back toward the covenant. Family division is reframed here as a component of a strategy to maintain generational accountability. As we read in 1 Nephi chapter 3, verse 1, Nephi returns from his profound spiritual communication directly to his father's tent. This transition shows that spiritual experiences are meant to prepare individuals for practical responsibilities and duties. Lehi shares a dream commanding the brothers to return to Jerusalem. Their objective is to retrieve a set of records from a man named Laban. These plates contain the Law of Moses and the family's essential genealogy. Without these very records, an exiled branch of Israel would eventually lose its identity, culturally dissolving into the surrounding populations. Executing this command carries intense physical danger. Retrieving the plates requires confronting Laban, an elite, heavily armed official in the city. To preserve their future, the brothers are commanded to turn back and face the exact geopolitical dangers they just escaped. While the older brothers murmur, Lehi clarifies the divine source of the command. The Lord favors Nephi because of his willing attitude. The brothers' murmuring suggests they view this as a man-made request rather than a divine one. In this narrative, the attitude of the person obeying is a key metric. In verse 7, Nephi definitively declares he will go and do, because God prepares a way. This timeline maps historical Israelite deliverances onto Nephi's current obstacle. His declaration is based on pattern recognition. From the Exodus onward, the record shows God consistently engineers paths to enable the things he commands. Verses 8 and 9 detail Lehi's joy as his sons initiate the journey back to Jerusalem. Going up to Jerusalem is a literal description. The city sits in elevated hill country, requiring a harsh expedition through dangerous territory. With the tents packed and the journey initiated, the narrative transitions from a statement of faith to physical movement back toward the threat.